Good evening. About 20 minutes before the meeting, someone said, well, maybe we'll have 5 or 6 people here tonight. And I got about 8 or 10 communications to me earlier today saying, please record it because we won't be here. Some of them had previous things that they had to do. A couple of folks said, I think I'm running a little bit of fever and I don't want to spread the love with everybody, and so I appreciate that. So I will get this up on YouTube tomorrow on the church channel. We'll send an email out and stuff. I'll also make PDFs of some of these documents, all of our handouts, because I don't know how many sessions there's going to be, but there's going to be a bunch of these sessions because this is a complex process, and we want to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions and hear about the process and to think about it. Mostly what we need to do is pray about this and seek God's wisdom for our church. Amen. What is God's will for our church? What does He want us to do here in Claiborne County to make ourselves better disciples, make this a stronger, healthier church, so that we can go out and do some good in God's kingdom? Because if we can't do some good in God's kingdom, what good are we? Why are we? If we can't do some good in Claiborne County, if we can't do some good in our larger area, if we can't do some good with those ministries in other parts of the world that we support and people that we know, what good are we? And we're all going to have to stand and answer these questions, I think, individually at some day. So this is very serious business, and it is a complex thing, and it is a complex intersection of culture and the church, and this has happened a lot. The format for this evening, I want to go about an hour, because that's about all, your mind can only absorb what your seat can endure. So I want to go about an hour, and I want to leave plenty of time for questions on the tail end of this. But this is the first session of as many as it takes to do it. But let's start at the beginning. I've given you one handout, and we're going to get to that, but it's going to be a little while before we get to that, because the first thing that I want to talk about is, how did we get here? All right? And I grew up in the Methodist Church. I know a lot of y'all grew up in the Methodist Church. The Methodist Church has a complex bureaucracy, and sometimes I'm surprised that lifelong Methodists don't really have a good understanding. When you're in high school, you're supposed to take civics, right? In the church, a lot of us went to confirmation class at some point, and they talk about, this is the structure of the church, this is the bureaucracy of the church, this is the polity of the church, this is our rules that we have agreed to of how we live together and work together and make decisions together. So let's begin at the beginning. The church, the big church, the worldwide United Methodist Church, only has one body that makes rules. Only has one body that is the official voice of the church. The only people that can speak for the United Methodist Church is that every 4 years, the general conference of the church conference, the general church conference that meets every 4 years, is the only body that can speak for the church. And then every 4 years, they will amend our book of discipline. You'll notice this one says 2016. That's because this is the latest version of our polity, our book of discipline, our book of rules, our book of procedures, our book of... This is what we all agree that we will follow. Particularly as clergy people, we take a vow that we will follow this. 2016 is the latest version, because 2016 was the last time we had a normal, put that in air quotes, that was the last time we had a normal church conference, and this was the last time that we produced, and then every 4 years we produce a new book. Because there's always little addendums and extras, and we're going to change this word to that word, and we're going to take out that paragraph, we're going to put in that paragraph, that sort of thing. 2016 was the last time we had a normal meeting of worldwide Methodism. Now, part of the agreement in 2016, because issues of human sexuality, issues of, and we're going to talk about that in great detail as we go, maybe not a whole lot tonight, but there is some language in our discipline that prohibits professed practicing, these words are important, professed practicing homosexuals. There is language in here that prohibits those persons from being ordained as clergy, and there's language in this that says you can't have a same-sex wedding inside a United Methodist Church. And United Methodist clergy are prohibited from presiding over a same-sex union. Now you can argue one side, you can argue the other side, you can have an opinion about it. We all have opinions about it, but we're supposed to go by the rules, and the rules say you can't, according to this rule book, you can't do that. And that has not been changed. And it's always a point of contention, and there's always protests, and some of them had gotten disruptive and that sort of thing. If you can find a whole bunch of videos on YouTube that show some of the disruption, and some of them get out of hand, and sometimes the police have to be called to restrain people. And it's been a problem for a long time. We've been arguing about this for 30 years. In 2016, the General Conference said we're going to table all of that stuff for the purpose of this 2016 meeting, and we're going to have a special called General Conference in 2019 just to discuss these issues. All right? And so they did. They had a special session in 2019. So this is and they made some decisions, and we're going to talk about those a little bit. So this is the latest book of discipline. There are some addendums to this that you can find online and you can print out. I'm going to go over one of them in great detail tonight. There are some addendums, the 2019 addendums to the 2016 current book of discipline, okay? They have not met at all since 2019 because of COVID and restrictions, and then people, we say, well, COVID's over. Well, it's not over in all parts of the world, and it is hard to get visas for certain delegates to come to the United States for these meetings and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be another general conference. It's going to be in the spring of next year, of 2024. It's going to be in the spring of 2024 because they do it on, they do it every 4 years. So that's the next one. So one of the things that was added as a 2019 addendum to our current polity, our current book of discipline, was a new paragraph, paragraph 2553. And I'll make some copies of this, and I'll put links on this so you can read it if you like. It's not very long. I'm not going to read every single word, but let me just kind of go over the main thing, because, and I'll read you the title because it tells you what it's all about. Paragraph 2553, this is formatted and reads like a legal document. So, some people that makes a lot of sense. Other people, it drives them crazy, but the paragraphs are numbered and all that sort of thing. Paragraph 2553, which was added, it's a brand new paragraph, never been in there before. Disaffiliation of a local church over issues related to human sexuality. All right? So, basis. 1. Because there is current deep conflict with the United Methodist Church around issues of human sexuality, a local church, which is us, a local church shall have a limited right under the provisions of this paragraph to disaffiliate from the denomination for reasons of conscience regarding a change in the requirements and provisions of the Book of Discipline related to the practice of homosexuality or the ordination or marriage of self-avowed practicing homosexuals as resolved and adopted by the 2019 Special General Conference, or the actions, this part they always leave out, or the actions or inactions of its, for us, that's the Holston Conference, the actions or inactions of the Holston Conference related to these issues which follow. And then they give a bunch of details about it. There are some time limits. All right, there is a decision-making process, which we're going to talk about in detail. If a local congregation decides to separate from their conference, there's a process that follows. There are some rules, there are some regulations, and then of course there's always the money. I'm now down to 4D, apportionment. The local church shall pay any unpaid apportionments for the 12 months prior to disaffiliation, as well as an additional 12 months of apportionments. A disaffiliating local church has the right to retain. We have a right to keep our real and personal, tangible, intangible property. There's a complex things for that. We have to transfer title to us. There are some pension liabilities that we are required to pay. Our Methodist clergy pensions have gotten changed over the years. Some people are covered by 3 or 4 different plans. For me personally, I'm covered by 2 different plans. Some of those are kind of the old school, kind of classic pension funds, where you're paid a monthly amount, which is based on your years of service to the church. And of course there are actuaries, there are people that make calculations, how big does our fund need to be so that we can pay these monthly obligations, and so they do a whole bunch of things, and so they have to figure out what is this church's unfunded liability to that fund, not for your current pastor's pension, but for every pastor that's ever served. You know, they put all these funds together, and there's a big one managed out of a group called Westpath in Chicago. They manage, I don't know how many billions of dollars, but it is a lot. We are one of the largest pension funds in the United States, the Methodist Church. A company called Westpath manages that independently for the United Methodist Church. So this church would be responsible for paying that amount of money. That calculation is going to vary slightly according to market conditions and the exact date that you disaffiliate and all that kind of stuff. I have made some inquiries. That number for us is $33,000 to $36,000, depending. Not a lot in the big scheme of things. And so for us, about 2 years worth of what our average apportionments have been for the last couple of years, which essentially is about 10% of what we bring in minus certain things that don't count and that sort of thing, but roughly about 10% of our budget. So that would be the money that we would be required to pay to. Part of it we pay to the Holston Conference. The pension money would go directly to Westpath to fund those unfunded pension liabilities, and the other money would go to the Holston Conference to help them run their conference operations and ministries and all the things that they do. So I will make a copy of this available for everybody. Any questions on that part of this process? Okay. Some people have gotten very excited when you talk about it. Question, yes?
The money you're talking about, that's only if the church disaffiliates from United?
Yes. That is only if you decide that you're going to disaffiliate. That would be a lump sum payment that would have to be paid next year at some point. And if you decide to stay in the United Methodist Church, you just pay your monthly askings, and they pay a pension payment for me, and we have a share of health insurance that we pay, and they're I mean, the finance people can give you all those numbers if you're interested in those things. Suzanne?
Do we have the funding available?
You're gonna have to speak up, please.
Do we have the savings available to pay that right now if we were to choose?
Yes. The money's not, yeah. We're very fortunate, we've got reserves. For us, that would not be a problem. We would not have to raise money. I would certainly like to raise some money to replace the reserves, but yeah, we could just write a check for it. That wouldn't be an issue for us. Larry?
If 2553 addresses the Book of Discipline's position from 2016, it appears that it is directed towards churches that want to have a different opinion about homosexual preachers. Am I misreading that?
No, you're right. It's incongruous, isn't it?
Yes. It seems like we're okay, and everybody who wants to have homosexual pastors and same-sex marriages should be addressed by 2553.
Yes.
Right.
It should have been.
You are correct, sir. And like a lot of things in life, like a lot of things in life, it is the exact opposite. The conservative people that want to retain the language that has been in there for 20 or 30 years, that is the group, some of them, that are leaving.
Because
And
they have added that, now the discipline reads like that. Like
that is part of the discipline, yes.
discipline now, as it stands now.
Yes. Suzanne?
Out of curiosity, do we have?
I'm sorry.
I said out of curiosity, do we have an idea of how things are running? Because I read an article from a vote this weekend, I think, out of Texas, that almost 75% of the congregations are leaving. Are we looking at something like that?
It is not that high. Going to seminary in Texas and having a lot of buddies that are Texas pastors, I think they're up to about 600 churches that have left. I know the Western Carolina.
Over 1,300 that I read this morning.
I didn't see it this morning, so that may be entirely accurate. I would suspect that number is going to go much higher. In Texas, being in the Texas Conference for a long time, I would not be surprised if many more than half the churches decided to leave. But before this deadline comes up next year.
Is Tennessee similar?
I would imagine that Tennessee is not that different. We have not had our thing yet, so we don't know. Some churches have already left because there are other mechanisms, but they are painful and expensive. They made this as kind of a easy way for churches to leave if, as a matter of conscience, they have a problem with this stuff. I do know that the Carolina Conference, which is about half of Carolina, they just had about a third of their churches leave.
In Georgia, I think, as well?
Georgia's got a lot, including most of the large churches in Georgia have left or are in the process of leaving. I know in Texas, many of the very large churches have or are going to. Oklahoma, all the large churches are leaving in
So
Oklahoma.
it's not a case of majority rules then?
I don't understand the question.
It's a representative government, just like we have in the United States. The people in power, correct me if I'm wrong, who passed this and all that, this isn't something that's voted on by everybody in the Methodist Church. It's that group of representatives that are at that conference in 2019 that wrote that.
It is very similar to the United States government. We have a representative democracy, it's not mob rule. It is a representative democracy, if you want to put it that way, or a republic, if you want to talk, you can think of it that way. So, at our level, all clergy are voting members of the Holston Annual Conference. And there are an equal number of lay people that are elected either by their local churches, or if you need a few more lay people, because sometimes you do, because there are more retired pastors can also vote. Okay, so you need to the district needs to elect some at-large lay delegates, so you can balance the number of clergy delegates and lay delegates. The Holston Conference elects representatives to the General Conference. All right? So when the General Conference gets to meet, all those people that are there and all those people that voted on these things, these are people that have been elected by their individual annual conferences, and they are at the annual conference either by virtue of being a clergy person, or they are elected by their church or their district to represent their church or their district as a lay person. And at General Conference, there are an equal number of lay people. Well, no, that's not true, because you can elect anybody you want. But usually those numbers are roughly the same.
Because of the large backlash from this, is the United Methodist Church rethinking any of this, or are they just going forth?
What is backlash?
Churches leaving. Large numbers of churches leaving.
And so when you say the United Methodist Church, that would be who?
The one we're a member of right now?
You mean like on the
Scale?
the big church? There's nothing to rethink, because the General Conference is the only body that can speak for the church. So it doesn't matter what they think. They have to follow this process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing they can do.
Well, so paraphrased, is there any reason to believe in 2024 they're going to rescind all this and change it? Is there any reason to believe that?
This paragraph has a time limit. It expires.
Okay.
Okay? Next year, it expires. So, as they would say on TV, this is a limited time offer. They will do something in 2024 when they meet again, and they will have some kind of mechanism where people can leave. Will it be a better deal than this? Will it be a worse deal than this?
We're not talking about leaving, though.
I don't know.
The question is
The wording.
the wording. Will they take out and go back to the way things used to be? Is there any reason to believe that? I've certainly not.
Which
heard
wording
it.
are we talking about?
That paragraph that they passed in 2019.
This paragraph disappears at the next year, so
Okay, so,
that's a moot point.
okay, so then the whole church returns to no gay marriages, no same-sex.
This doesn't say anything about that at all.
So,
This is just a mechanism where people can leave if they desire to leave. This paragraph does not address the human sexuality question at all.
The thought is that they've got the votes to change
right.
the guidance.
Right.
And so my point is, what she's saying is, the thought is they have those votes right now. However, have they determined that the 2016 conference representatives, those votes, the 2020 conference representatives will be the same ones who meet in 2024?
And the pastor may know, and I just know enough to be dangerous, I guess. It was my understanding that the African bloc decided not to play. There was my understanding there was a substantial block of conservative votes that were there that blocked this, and they apparently, from what little I have read, they apparently decided they're not playing anymore. So then all of a sudden it flipped. What appeared for us to be in the majority flipped to the minority. And so that's the reason why the question you posed a moment ago, it made it look like.
It is a political process, and I don't even pretend to try to predict the outcome of a political process. Although I can tell you, if for 20-something years, they've been trying to get rid of these restrictions, let's call them that, restrictions on sexuality, let's call it that. They've been trying to loosen those restrictions and really just eliminate those restrictions. If you have a whole bunch, and the votes have been getting closer and closer as the years go by, if you eliminate a third of your very traditional churches, you probably have eliminated a third of your very traditional voting block. So
Right.
I would anticipate at the next general conference, they're gonna get rid of all the prohibitions about human.
That's why
sex.
churches are leaving, they're
And there's
banking
no
on
reason
that
to
happening.
believe
Is
that's
that
not
right?
gonna happen.
If more conservative churches are leaving,
Yep.
more liberal churches in power,
So it's gonna
believe the liberal laws
Yeah.
are gonna be
It's gonna be
restricted.
a massive.
That's my theory.
You would certainly think so, but
That's what
I,
So they're
It's
leaving
just-
before there's anything really different. They're just leaving on the idea that that's what's gonna happen.
yeah.
I mean, they're just
But-
leaving, but they've already left a block of them,
Yes,
and nothing's happened yet.
nothing's happened yet.
But the way he's described it, right now, they've made it convenient and easy for churches to leave. So if you don't leave now, down the road, it may cost more and be harder to leave. That's why I think a lot of churches are leaving at this time.
They believe it's gonna change.
A lot of churches are just tired of fighting about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it takes time and energy and money and effort, and it occupies space in your brain. And you go, what? You know what?
Burnout.
Everybody here has an opinion. My opinion is, I don't think about it a whole lot because I've got other pastors and other contexts and other churches. I mean, it's a struggle and it's a thing and it's a conflict and they're with it every day. But yeah, I've been doing this almost 20 years. I mean, we've had plenty of homosexual members in various congregations that I've served at, staff members that were homosexual. No pastors that were homosexual, but that were practicing homosexual. But it hasn't come up and it hasn't been an issue. I think a lot of churches, they're just tired of fighting about it. And they want to, they just want to go and do church the way that they want to do church, which is, I hate labels, but, kind of a more traditional / conservative understanding of theology and practices of the church.
I have a question.
Sure.
If we do leave, are we still within a group of churches, or are we just out there by ourselves?
That is an excellent question. If you decide to leave, that just means you leave. And then you are free to do, let's assume that this church decides, as a matter of conscience, we don't feel that we can be a part of the United Methodist Church anymore. Then we're going to have a conversation, do we want to be a part of any denomination? And if so, what denomination do we want to be a part of? Or do we just want to be a freestanding independent church and not be a part of any larger congregation? There's no rule that says you have to go to this. Yeah, a lot of them are going to the Global Methodist Church. But there's no rule is that you don't have to. Some of them are going to the Free Methodist Church. Some of them are staying independent. Some of the great big giant churches, they're just going independent. And then they kind of have a loose association with each other, just for support and that sort of thing. But it's not a binary choice. You're either with us or you're with them. All this is about is you're going to leave the United Methodist Church, and then you are free to do what you want to do. This church can, I say this church because this is what we're talking about. If this church votes by a 2/3 majority that they want to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church, we can join any church that this group decide.
So define 2/3.
Definition of the 2/3. The definition of the 2/3 will be 2/3 of people voting on the date that the district superintendent sets for us to vote. And she will be here, and we'll help process the votes. And it is 2/3 of people present
Members,
Not members.
that are eligible to vote,
members.
which is a member.
Right.
If you're not,
But
if you're,
Not the members at large, it's the
Members
members that
and
show up.
present, right.
You have to be a member and present.
you have to be a member, you have to be a president. I'm sorry?
You have to be there to win.
No mail-ins.
They'll mail them down too.
No drawbacks.
Suzanne?
Sorry, I just always have questions. If a church did leave and they didn't join another organization, like the Global or the, what was the other free?
Free Methodists, the Wesleyan Church, there's a whole bunch of Methodist related.
Church, what's happening now?
Is it feasible for a small church like us to survive without the benefits of a larger organization?
Well, I will bite my lip and I will say what benefits, number one, and then number two, I will say, look at how many independent Baptist churches there are in this county.
So I have two nephews who are pastors of small independent churches. And like he said, this loose network, they have a loose network of other small independent churches
Yeah.
to help provide insurance and other things that.
Curriculum for Sunday schools
Exactly,
and
exactly.
stuff like that.
So
Like homeschool.
it is a loose thing, but
It
they
is a-
do well.
It is a voluntary association.
It is, and they have slowly grown.
Pastors
Yeah.
So
and,
you
you know,
have
and
like,
insurance.
you have
Yeah,
meetings.
that's why they do have these independent groups, and it has to do with they have retirement funds that are tied to it and everything else.
We
I don't
we
know
would,
details.
we would meet if we decided the preacher needed to go, not to say. If it would be our responsibility to find, the neat thing with the hosting conference, you just contact the DS and the DS would, somebody would send you
Whether you like it
somebody.
or not.
That job may become a little more tedious, maybe.
That's the way the Baptists do it.
You just go listen to people and offer them a job.
Yeah, that kind of deal. Okay, I've got to leave, but can I ask a question?
Sure.
This timeline, and I know that we voted to start this 90 days. Is the 90 days starting?
It's ticking right now.
So we filled that form out and sent it in?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, and
What
so
was the
the
date on
DS,
that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but we're about 3 weeks into it.
and you have to make a decision too?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that 90 days was like the first part of February or something that was completed.
At our next meeting, I'll have a timeline that shows the exact
Okay.
dates, but I do want to go over some of the things that we're required.
And I know we did that, but does this require the DS, is there a necessity for, is the DS signed for?
The DS has signed it.
Okay.
Signed it about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so that's when.
Because I hand delivered it over there to them.
Is that when the 90 days started?
Yep.
When she signed?
Yeah.
So 3. So I guess we can ask you this question. Do you intend to disaffiliate? Or is that, you shouldn't answer? that?
Actually, I had a meeting with the DS last week because it was time for my annual consultation. And she asked me that question. And so,
Well, you may not be prepared to answer that, right? I didn't put
there
you-
was a Broadway show called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
I can't wait to hear it.
It's gonna be good.
It was a good show.
And my favorite musical number in that, they made a movie, Burt Reynolds was in it. And the best song of that whole thing is when the governor of the state of Texas, they'd ask him a question, and he'd give them this flowery, eloquent answer that when you did all the math, equaled 0. I'm gonna have to edit this tape before I put it on YouTube. So that's kind of the answer that I gave. And she asked me that. She said, "Are you staying or are you going?" I said, "Well, I don't know what my church is going to do because we're in process." "Well, are they leaving?" I said, "I don't know. We're in the process. We understand what that word discernment means. We're in the process, and we'll go through the process, and then we'll take a vote, and then we'll know, are we going to stay or are we going to go?" And she said, "Well, if they decide to leave, do you need to be appointed to a Methodist church?" And I said, "Well, that certainly is a possibility, and so I suggest that you find, if this church leaves, I suggest you make me an offer." And
the reason why I brought it up, but I didn't mean to put you on the spot, that's a dual process where he has to decide on his own. We could disaffiliate, and he could, it may give him a 300-member church someplace, and he may think that's the thing he needs. I don't know. That there's no guarantees. We have to do this as a church, with or without the benefit of the pastor coming along with us.
yes,
But I think it's
Yes.
important that we understand that if Lawrence makes some commitment right now in front of everybody, that takes away his ability to lead us through this process in
I
a,
don't think it needs.
in an
we need to
independent
hear his
manner.
answer.
And I think that maybe by the end of the last day in the vote, he will share with us his personal opinions. But I think maybe
yes.
it's a more effective leadership without forcing him to make commitments yet.
Or as they said in the musical, the governor sings a song, "Ooh, I love to do the little side step." I'll answer your question without answering
Well,
your question.
the group needed to hear that. So we got it. I think everybody understands.
Thank you.
I gotta go.
All right.
I'm
You gotta
sorry,
go.
guys.
All right, we got about 25 more minutes. So let's talk a little bit about, let's do a history lesson. Church splits. Somebody said to me, "I've been a United Methodist my whole life, and I can't imagine not being a United Methodist." And I thought to myself, "Honey, you're like 76 years old. You have not been a United Methodist your whole life." Now, I didn't say that out loud.
I know it wasn't me, I'm not saying.
I didn't say she was 86.
Some things are better left unsaid.
Maybe you might wanna leave.
Let me do this real fast. You don't have to write this down. In 1784, John Wesley ordained 4 guys and sent them to America. All right? In 1779, some groups had already split off from the Methodists that were already there before. All right. In 1784, they got together. They incorporated some thing. They called it the Methodist Episcopal Church. All right, is that ringing a bell? The Methodist Episcopal Church. So 3 years later, the Free African Society splits off and formed a church. In 1796, the African Methodist Episcopal Church left and started the AME Church. In 1830, the Methodist Protestant group left and started a new church. In 1843, the Wesleyan Methodist Church split and started a new church. In 1844, there was a split because of the Civil War, and there was a new church formed called the Methodist Episcopal Church South. In 1860, there was a group called the Free Methodist Church, and they left. This was not an African church. It was a Anglo group, but they were not satisfied with post-Civil War practices inside the Methodist Church. So, and they're still around, and some people are joining this church, the Free Methodist Church. So the MEC South split in 1844. The church did not come back together until 1939. It took a while. The Civil War had been over for a long time. In 1939, the Methodist Episcopal Church, sometimes called Methodist Episcopal North, but that's not their name because they were the Methodist Episcopal Church. The Methodist Episcopal Church South, the Methodist Protestant Church, those people that had left in 1830, they all came back together, they merged, and they named their new creation the Methodist Church. And if you go in the back and dig around, you can find hymnals that say Methodist Church. It was formed in 1939. In 1968, the Evangelical United Brethren Church, which was kind of an offshoot, but they had never been a part of the Methodist Church. They kind of were parallel to the Methodist Church. The Evangelical United Brethren Church and the Methodist Church joined, merged, and became the United Methodist Church. We're not called the United Methodist Church because we are united. We are called the United Methodist Church because we merged the United Brethren Church and the Methodist Church. So we wanted a piece of both names. So we are the United Methodist Church. That happened in 1968. Now, a lot of it really wasn't fully codified until 1972, which was our next big meeting. So, everybody in this room almost is of an age that if you were a member of a Methodist church when you were a little kid, it was probably the Methodist Church. It was not the United Methodist Church. So you have not been a member of the United Methodist Church your entire life for a lot of us, because there was no such thing as the United Methodist Church until 1968. So there are other little splits and other little things. I haven't listed them all. I kind of listed the big ones. But the church splitting and then re-merging and kind of... I grow a lot of fruit trees, and every once in a while I go out with my pruning shears. And if it's a fig tree, I prune it and I take the little thing and I stick it in the ground. And sometimes a few years later, the little thing I stuck in the ground is bigger than the thing that I took it off of. You know, God's church prevails. God does not care if there is a United Methodist Church. God only cares that there is His church. And the name on the front door really doesn't matter one way or the other. All right? A history of splitting, merging, getting mad, and then getting back together. It's part of our DNA as Methodists. And if you do, if you go deeply into the history of just about any other church, it's the same deal. It's the same deal. So, I've given you a handout, that little sheet, the little chart, I don't know the page number, that near the front, that a lot of, and you don't even need to look at it, but you can look at it later. There's a little chart showing the timeline, because there's a process here and there's a timeline. There are some deadlines here that we need to think about and talk about. So, we are in phase 2, which is, the Holston Conference calls this the prayerful discernment section. All right. So, there are several things that need to be done during this step. Y'all don't have all of this, but you've got kind of the highlights. So, we have to request the church liability calculations from the conference treasurer's office. We know approximately what those are. I have requested those numbers. I have not gotten the official numbers yet. We need to form a discernment team, and we have to share information and a timeline agreement with the congregation. The church council, the last time they met, they said, well, the church council is kind of form the core of the discernment team, but certainly anybody that is a member of our church that is interested in that can consider themselves to be a member of the discernment team. So we have done that. The congregation prays, discusses the issues. During this time, all members will have an opportunity to learn, to express their views. I mean, I'm a big believer in allowing people to express their opinions. Everybody's opinion is important. Another thing that is required The district superintendent or their representative will teach lessons on the history, polity, doctrine of the UMC, including how we got into this situation and what the Book of Discipline currently states about human sexuality. I guess I am her designated representative because she's not going to come and talk to us about this.
Can we request somebody from the conference?
We have, and nobody wants to come and talk to us about it. I have requested some folks from either the Wesleyan Covenant Association, which is the group that kind of formed the Global Methodist Church. They would love to come, but they can't because they are booked up for the next 6 months. They've got like 6 or 8 people that go out and do presentations, and they are booked up. So I'm doing a Zoom thing with the Global Methodist Church on Thursday just to hear what they have to say. If I can get a recording of that, I will make that available. So I want everybody to have just as many different streams of information from different sources that you can get, so you can make up your own mind.
Would the Wesleyan Covenant or the Global people be willing to let us go to a church where they're doing a presentation?
Yes, and I can get you a listing.
That might,
I can get you a listing of ones that are already scheduled.
Might be an
I can sure do
option.
that.
Yeah.
Especially if there's one close to here.
Yep.
I mean, really, they should do them at big
Tomorrow night.
churches and invite other
Fantastic.
churches, more bang for your
That's
buck.
They
just
are.
up the road.
But
But you can't go if you're in the choir.
Tomorrow,
I know.
yeah.
well,
One more week.
they're doing them in Knoxville, they're doing them in Maryville, they're doing them in Johnson City. You know, Claiborne County is a little
Yeah.
bit further down on the list for a lot of people and stuff. Okay, we are required for worship services to focus on the role of discernment in the life of the follower of Jesus Christ and of a congregation. I think I kind of do that a lot anyway, but I did talk a lot about discernment means. Does anybody remember me talking about that? I think I have. We're supposed to have a panel discussion, I don't know what that means, on scriptural understanding of human sexuality. We are supposed to host guest speakers and provide information on the UMC, Global Methodist Church, other possible Wesleyan denominations. I have invited a whole bunch of people, nobody is available. We are supposed to, if we can, have small groups discuss issues, fill out questionnaires to discuss various issues about this. They've not provided any sample questionnaires. They've not provided any sample agenda items when these various presentations are supposed to be done. They've not provided a study guide.
But can we document that we've requested them?
Yes.
So that's just going back, talking about having the administrative council being this, this discernment group. That's so that if they ask Lawrence, do you have a discernment group? He can say, yes, here's a list of names. But we've all said from the beginning that everyone is welcome to come to every single one of these meetings. None of these meetings are going to be closed or anything like that. We just don't want them to say, oh, you didn't check that block.
Yep. I'm going to check all these blocks and put the dates, and you know, I mean, we got like 30-something people here tonight, so that, I mean, that's fantastic. So at some point, the discernment committee will present a brief overview of the preliminary findings during a worship service, and if any individuals wish to respond, they can meet with that committee. We want everybody to have an opportunity to have their input. The discernment committee will present a recommendation whether or not to move forward to take a vote, or may just decide we don't even want to take a vote because we
So
decided we just want to stay and we're not even going to take a vote.
That means you stay.
If you don't take a vote, if you don't take a vote, you stay. Yeah, you don't have to vote to stay. You have to take a vote to leave. Some of this is superfluous. At some point, the discernment committee makes a final recommendation to the church on whether or not we're going to have this vote. All right? And if it is discerned that a church should withdraw from United Methodist Church, the pastor will request a date for a called church conference from district. The DS will come and conduct that proceeding. All right. I would imagine we'll do it in the sanctuary. We'll take a vote. Yes, sir.
The vote.
Beg pardon?
Secret vote, closed, written.
It
yea,
will.
nay, what kind of vote is it?
It is not specified. I think 2 or 3 people will pass out ballots. You will not be required to put your name on the ballot. Might number them, serialize them, maybe. Just thinking. While everybody is in the room, all those ballots will be brought to the front, and then 2 or 3 people will count those ballots. They'll put them in piles in front of everybody, and then the totals will be, added up and revealed. No bringing pieces of paper into a back room and then
Hanging chads.
no hanging chads.
There'll be no hangings in this process.
There are no mail-in ballots.
So you have to be here, so it'll have
Yes.
to be announced early enough that everybody.
It'll be announced right then and there.
Yes, so, I mean,
No, the vote.
beforehand, the
The
vote.
day of the
because
vote.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gotta be, it won't be like during the Christmas season or something.
No.
Traveling.
Lawrence, what happens at the DS level? What's gonna happen to them when X number of churches go one way and X number stay? What does
Well,
the DS, does she
Yeah,
have to?
let's
does she
talk
have to
about
vote
that.
on
Let's
it?
talk about this from the top down for just a second. I have an article I'm going to copy and give to you guys. It was done by an independent person. There are 11 general agencies of the big church, and they all have multi-million-dollar budgets, and they have all been told to cut their budgets by 25 or 30% for the next general conference meeting. The Methodist Church has the big Methodist Church spends roughly $100 million a year on their bureaucracy. Okay, now that includes ministry work and grant. But that's just the big number. When they do these 4-year budgets, they're for 360, 380, 425, it's kind of roughly in that ballpark. It's kind of about $100 million a year. So if a third to a half of that funding disappears, there will obviously have to be some big bureaucratic changes at the big church level. So let's go to the Holston Conference. District superintendents are paid from apportionment money that we send to the conference. Okay? And we used to have 12 of them, now we got 10 of them, but if they cut their budget 20 or 30 or 40%, they're not going to be able to afford 10 of them anymore. All right, and so, yeah.
And
there
they'll
will-
change lines and geographic areas.
And they'll have to redraw geographical area, all that kind of stuff. And so the Holston Conference would have to fundamentally restructure how many people work there and who does what. And
Well, how many pastors are you gonna still have then? I mean, if pastors decide to leave also, what's gonna be left for the pool of the people that are
Well,
there?
half the churches are gone, you won't need but
Won't
half the
need them.
DS.
But what if all the pastors
Seems like that's the
stay?
problem solved.
that is an interesting question. Just to make the numbers work. Let's say that 50% of the churches leave.
Yeah.
Clergy people as a whole, Methodist clergy people tend to be very liberal. The younger you are, the more liberal you are. That's an oversimplification, but I hope you understand. I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but that's just the way it is. Let's say you have 50% of your churches leave, and yet 75% of your elders stay. Elders are guaranteed appointments.
So you'll have 2 preachers for, 1.5 preachers.
I don't know.
Every church.
Don't know what.
Look how many Methodist churches we have here in this area.
About 850. Holston Conference has about 850 churches.
But pastors serve more than one church, some of them do, right? Like we
Yes.
have a circuit here.
Yes.
if
And local pastors are not guaranteed anything. Deacons are not guaranteed. Only elders are guaranteed to be appointed to a church.
For those hung up on being called a Methodist, if we vote to leave, we can still be Methodist, correct?
We're global Methodists. We're just we're the Methodist church.
We can be Methodist, Tazewell, New Tazewell,
The
you change our
independent
name to
Methodist, whatever.
Methodist or whatever. If you're not leaving, you're not unbecoming a Methodist.
Well,
You don't call yourself United Methodist. So
exactly, if we leave, we are required, we will no longer be the New Tazewell United Methodist Church, because we are prohibited from using that term, United Methodist
Right.
anything.
United.
Got to take the sign down.
But we can
All that
still
stuff.
have Methodist in our name.
You're right.
Well, if you join the Free Methodist, you'll be the Free Methodist Church. If you join the Global Methodist Church, you'll be the Global
We
Methodist.
stay independent.
Or independent Methodist. Yeah.
You could be we could be the Independent Methodist Church of Claiborne County, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm kind of curious why the DS is willing to come talk to her own churches.
We don't know.
Is that a bad question? I mean,
It's a good question.
You keep asking these questions that if I answer, I'm gonna have to edit out the thing from the.
You're already gonna have to edit.
Well, I think it's safe to say that the request has been made.
The request has been made.
She turned us down.
I didn't recall.
I don't know why the bishop does not call every elder on the telephone who is in a church in the discernment process.
I mean, you can meet the entire church in Tazewell and New Tazewell and do one meeting, something. Tell us that, because one of the reasons I'm asking, I guess, is I had read that there was some discussion that the United Methodist Church was talking about going away from Jesus as being born through God, and that he died and was resurrected, which are basic tenets of our faith. And I was like, is that true?
No. And kind of.
What does that mean?
There are certain, the United Methodist Church, that forever we've called ourselves a big tent where we can accommodate a variety along a theological spectrum. A very small piece of that theological spectrum does exactly what you had mentioned. Okay? Yes, they do. There are some specific examples, which we're going to do at one of our future sessions, a little bit of this. But it is a small sample. And again, the only body that speaks for the Methodist Church is the General Conference of the church. So if they do any of this kind of stuff, they're going to have to vote it through. Now, it would be and let me tell you from a mechanical and political perspective, it would be exceedingly difficult to do that. Because if you look right at the front of our book of discipline, we have theological standards, some of which came directly from John Wesley, some of which came from the United Brethren Church when they were brought in. We kind of had parallel but slightly different theological understanding. And I mean it's kind of right out of the Nicene Creed. Jesus was a real person. He was really born of a virgin. He really died and physically rose again. And you can find United Methodist pastors, you can find United Methodist seminary professors, you can find United Methodist bishops that will say all that stuff is a fairy tale and, okay?
Why are they United Methodist bishops?
Well, I'm sorry, what?
Why are they United Methodist
Well,
bishops?
why did we just elect a United Methodist bishop who's married to another woman when it's against our rules? It's against our rule. And in fact that a lot of these traditional / conservative churches are leaving is for that exact reason. we can disagree, but we're still gonna follow the agreement that we vowed that we would follow. We're gonna do the things we said that we're going to do. But when you disagree, you just go do whatever the heck you want to do. And that's why I think a lot of churches have just said, you know, we're just done, we're not gonna play that game, we're not gonna go there, we're just, y'all keep it, y'all keep the 11 general agencies, y'all keep y'all's $100 million a year budget for your bureaucracy, and good luck trying to pay for it in the future. And the new church is the Global Methodist Church. It's just going to be a new thing. Not going to have that bureaucracy. They are never going to have that bureaucracy. They're purposely going to keep it focused on the local church. Their overhead is much smaller. In modern speak, if you're talking about corporate structure, it's going to be a flatter organization. It's not going to have such a hierarchy, and it will have bishops, but they will be elected. They will serve for a period of time, and then they will go back to being a pastor. I mean, now if you're elected bishop, you are elected bishop for life, and even after you retire, you serve on all kinds of things, and it's almost like you've been elevated to something that you can never lose or be unelevated. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, I mean, I guess if you commit a heinous felony, they might do something, but other than that, they're not going to.
No impeachment process.
There technically there is a removal process, but it is very onerous and difficult to
So
do.
if we vote to leave the United Methodist Church, then if we want to join the global United, will we vote on that too as a church?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What if we vote to stay, and we stay, and then 2 years down the road, we decide we made a really bad mistake? Can we do it again?
We don't know what the rules are going to be in 2 years.
But I'm just saying, is it possible to redo?
I can't tell you that.
You don't know.
It'll be impossible to redo this because this expires.
There'll be new rules.
There'll be new
to
rules,
leave.
there'll be new things, and I can't tell you what those are because they haven't done it yet.
Don't know if it'll be better or easier to leave.
It
I
probably,
would be,
I say it'd be worse. They'll be
I,
mad when
I,
everybody leaves.
I can tell you, knowing the process as I do, I would be very surprised if they made it as easy or easier.
It'd be worse.
They will make it more expensive, they will make it more, they don't want people to leave.
Yeah.
That's why the district superintendent.
They don't want people to leave.
She's biased, she wants us to stay.
It's, I mean, part of that's human nature, you're trying to protect your thing, it's all that stuff, but.
If they don't want us to leave, then why aren't they here appealing to?
That's a very good question.
That's why.
They what?
They think they're above.
I just bit my lip so hard I drew blood.
I spoke for you.
One needs only to read the opening memorandum from the conference to see what their position is on us and what we,
What, give me one relevant sentence, please.
Though we desire for all of our churches to continue on the journey together as United Hopes and Conference, some of our congregations and clergy are considering withdrawing from the United Methodist Church to become part of another expression of Methodism, which such as the Global Methodist Church. It saddens us that if these churches and clergy discern to withdraw, however, we send them forth with our blessing.
So that's the bishop's letter that she wrote, is that right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think that's kind of their thing, it's saying, well, okay, if you, it's like if you want to break up, let's break up, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it, and, I guess that's why we're not getting a full court press to try to give us, I would love to have somebody come down here and say, these are the 10 excellent reasons why you should stay. I would love to know what those 10 excellent reasons are.
I'd like to know all the reasons that some of these large churches are leaving. I'd like to know all the reasons they chose to leave. Why?
sexual preference.
That's a lot of it.
That's the reason.
No, that's it.
Do you believe marriage is between a man and a woman?
Yeah.
Do you believe a man can have a baby? That is why they're leaving, is your beliefs on that topic right there.
But the rules haven't changed in the Methodist Church.
They are
Correct.
changing.
Yeah, but the people that are running it have.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, they haven't changed yet, but but
They-
it looks
they-
like it's going that way.
They've gone woke.
But they've
Yeah.
already have, people in leadership that are violating the Book of Discipline.
It's in your face.
Then we have no choice then.
If,
Have a
well,
choice.
no, we do have,
We,
I think we can make a.
we do
hey,
have.
brother, we got a lot of choices, okay? We got a lot of choices.
But I mean, we don't have any choice that we would stay in the United Methodist Church.
If that's what the group says, that's what's best for our church, that's what's gonna, make our church stronger, it's gonna make our church grow, it's gonna make us a more effective witness in our community.
But Bob, you know, and every one of you knows, that we have a book of discipline we can refer to.
Yes.
That's right.
And I hear what you're saying.
Y'all,
I respect it.
y'all,
See, I don't know-
y'all have seen my Bible that I usually preach out of, what it looks like, the wear and tear. You'll notice the wear and tear on my 2016 Book of Discipline.
Did you just take it out of the wrap before this meeting? Was it plastic?
I'm sorry, it had a little dust on it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's it, I don't know.
All right, we're just a little bit over an hour now, and I said we go an hour. We're gonna be in next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, because there's a whole list of things that we need to go through.
Will we get like Christmas week and the week after Christmas and you over? I'm sorry. And people are gonna be traveling and I hate to miss.
Yes, Christmas week and then New Year's week, we will take a little break.
Well, and you're gonna do this on every meeting so that
Yes.
those of us that are leaving before Christmas
Yes.
will be able to.
Call me up and I'll give you the
Yes.
recap.
Send me a
Or your
text.
meeting's always be on Tuesday night.
This is an excellent question. Would the group prefer to meet on a different night? Because this is my full-time deal, and I'll meet whenever y'all want to meet.
Well, weekly topics was on a Thursday, so it doesn't matter to me, I'm flexible.
I think it might be good to have a variety, because a lot of people won't come out at night that prefer to come during the day. And a lot of people, well, a few people that work can't come during the day. So you might wanna have some of them during the day for people who won't drive at dark.
That is an excellent suggestion. We will have we'll have several of these meetings at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that people that don't like to go out, or people that have to drive up from the lake and don't want to drive through the fog and the bad weather, although some people will do it, but it's
Sunday afternoon after church or after we go out and maybe eat, all of us go out together to eat.
we could do it on a Sunday afternoon, at, at
That's a good day.
1:30 to 11. Is that a better idea?
It is for us because the distance.
Instead of variety, then.
I'm sorry?
I said I prefer having all the expertise of everyone together like this, where you, not me, I think it gets everybody kind of.
Yes. We'll have a couple of sessions right after church. Well, give people an hour and a half or 2 hours to go get lunch. And we'll do it like 2 o'clock, and then we'll have another session. We'll do that so people that work during the week, or people that don't like to get out this late in the day, can attend that. That's an excellent idea. Read up on this. There's a gazillion things on the internet. I'm going to start sending you links and documents and things. Please read them. Above all else, pray about this. Pray for wisdom. We want to be wise. We want to be smart. We want to be clever. We want to do stuff and have people look back in 20 years and go, oh my gosh, they were so smart to do this. They were so wise to do this. We don't do this for us. We do this for the people that aren't here yet. The people in our community today and the people 25 years from now that aren't here yet. All right? Pray hard and pray often. God be with you. God bless you. I will see you soon.
Vote early and vote often.
I'll say take the vote right now.